Happy New Year, everyone. Happy 2018 with everyone here at the Retro Gamers, and everyone is Larry here.
And Anthony here. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year, Ann. How'd you ring in 2018?
I rang in 2018 with a bunch of my friends. I went over to one of their houses. We played a bunch of board games, laughed our butts off, and watched a ball drop twice.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Welcome from the future.
Right. We got the East Coast feed and then, of course, the West Coast feed, which, by the way, the screen still says live for us West Coasters, even though it's clearly not.
Oh, did it?
Yeah. You know, we watched Ryan Seacrest and Jenny McCarthy, and it's like, oh, it's live. And we're like, no, it wasn't. That was 3 hours ago.
Lies, all lies.
Yeah.
That's cool.
No, live, not lies.
Well, live too. Well, it is
live lies. Live lies.
Exactly. I'm.
How did you ring in your New Year, by the way?
Sick as a dog, and just kind of on the couch watching live Dick Clark's New Year's Rockin' Eve 2017 with Ryan Seacrest, the longest title of any of the. New Year's shows.
I was very disheartened to find out that Dick Clark couldn't make it this year.
Yeah, well, he has a little issue being dead. Yeah, but it was a fun show. They brought back Mariah Carey, shockingly.
I know. Did she sing?
Yeah, well, this time she sang live, so she couldn't really mess it up like she did last year.
Oh, okay. Was she good?
She's Mariah Carey. She's what she is.
I heard a rumor that in the middle of her performance, she had to drink a cup of hot tea.
Yeah, so last year...
Is that true? I guess that's true.
Forgive me, my voice may still sound a little hoarse. Yeah, last year was the Epic Meltdown, which was fantastic. So she goes back for a second time. She finishes the first song, whatever it is. She turns around. She's like, I was told... This is live on TV. I was told I'd have hot tea. My hot tea is not on the stage, but I will continue to perform. Without my hot tea. Oh, definition of a diva. Good Lord.
Oh, Mariah. Well, not that I'm going to defend somebody like Mariah Carey. However, but I'm sure the hot tea had something to do with, her voice and the way she sings.
Well, it wasn't like wind chill was about -7, I think, when she was singing, so...
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, it was chilly. But other than that, actually what I did was, since I was really home and had really nothing to do, I rearranged my entertainment unit that has all the game systems that I have for now, well, most all of them. So
very cool.
A little bit neater, a little bit better situation. I was able to bring forward some of my consoles, like the Retron HD, the PS1, the classics. So they're all now easy to get to. The other systems underneath. I broke out my GameCube.
Very nice. Congratulations.
Yep, thank you very much. And some of the games I was a little worried. Some of them had a little trouble starting up, but looks like I got things going. I must have sold back some games because I don't have as many games as I remember having. So I got to look into that.
I'm sure you did. But now, how many retro consoles are you up to?
Well, let's say let's say consoles. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12. I'm nowhere near you, but 12 plus.
No, I just, yep.
There's a Genesis. There's still a Genesis in my closet that I right now don't have room for because it's a Gen 1 Genesis.
I just want to make sure I have more than you. That's all.
You certainly do.
Yes. Okay.
But I had to go
and
get.
I think my official count stands at 22.
I had to go get a second power strip. Had to get some HDMI splitters that don't work 100%, so I'm slow. So that's annoying.
That's okay.
I've yet to find ones that do. So
yeah, but you know what? It's okay. It's all good.
So I still got to get up and manually switch everything around.
As I say, I think I may be up to 4 power strips. So I definitely have a fire hazard behind my television.
And of course, help bringing the GameCube to life is Our good friends over at Game On, that's out here on Long Island. Tristan, the owner of Game On, great guy I met actually last Thursday from when we're recording on New Year's Day. So this is officially the first podcast of the new year.
Woo!
And I met Tristan, great guy. He has 2 stores, one in Miller Place, one in Smithtown. Tremendous collection of games, classic games. I went and saw him because he made this custom, not a custom, but a rebuilt Game Boy with custom colors. So this is
very nice,
a see-through blue. But what's cool about it is he actually put a backlight in it.
That's awesome.
So he's got, which these were never originally backlit. So that what's really led me to him. And then we started talking. Great guy. And what's great about him as well, when I bought the Game Boy, I'm going to be honest, but this is all good. Don't get me wrong. When I bought the Game Boy, when I brought it home, the speaker wasn't working. So I was like, all right. I mean, the headphone jack worked, but the speaker didn't. So I messaged him, and he was like, bring it in. I'll repair it. No, and that's not just me. This is what they do. You know, if there's any issues, they'll repair it free right then and there. So I brought it in. He wasn't there, but one of his workers were. I forgot his name. 20 minutes later, came out, and speaker's working. And even with that, there was, and this is me personally, like underneath the screen, there was like an eyelash or something that fell into the screen. So I'm like, listen, while you're in there, can you pop the screen off and just kind of vacuum that out? There were no problem. They did it, like I said, in 20 minutes. It was fantastic. I will definitely be going back to him for my, because when you walk into the store, you get hit with that smell of rubbing alcohol, which is good because they're cleaning all the new games that they got that people sold back.
I was going to say, is there a nail salon in there? Is that why?
Not so much. Not yet, at least. Great staff. And like I said, I'm definitely going to be heading back there. It looks like I may be picking up my TurboGrafx this year at some point if he gets one in. But more importantly,
I'm intrigued.
I may be getting that Virtual Boy back.
Oh, no, you're not.
So Tristan, I want to give a shout out to him. To Game On.
Yeah. Little did you know that I've already called him and gave him the warning.
No. How dare you?
Just like every other retro game store in New York.
You just spent like 3 days just calling people.
Yeah, basically, your face is up in pretty much every retro game store in the tri-state area. So good luck getting that Virtual Boy.
Don't take a check from this man.
Yeah, don't take a check from this man, and don't sell him a Virtual Boy. Hashtag VB sucks.
I told him, I'm like, once I get, because I'm going to be getting a Super NES clone next month, or no, this month now, probably in a few weeks.
It's January.
Yep, I am definitely going back, and I'm going to be picking up a load of Super Nintendo games. So I am really looking forward to that. My wallet is not, but I will deal accordingly.
Well, buy in moderation, Larry. It's not like they're not going anywhere. I mean, they're always going to be out there. So just
maybe not retro games. Maybe not. You never know. Depending on what game, could be a rare one.
Well, yeah, but rare ones will always be more expensive. But the whole idea is they're out there for shopping. I mean, and if you can't get them at a store, obviously, online, they're all over the place. So don't buy it all at once. I'm just trying to ease your credit card burden.
Buy it all at once. Buy it once a week. Either way, that bill's coming at the end of the month.
Yeah, I know. Just take it from somebody who worked a very long, who worked for the last few years to pay off all his credit cards. Which, by the way, was my Christmas gift to me this year.
Oh, good.
I am credit card debt free.
There you go. For now, until the next Retro Expo.
Well, I was just gonna say until next week.
So big shout out to Game On. Check them out. Follow them. You can find them on Facebook and Instagram. Just search Game On. You will check them out. And also, what reminded me of Game On, because he has like some really cool, kind of hard to find games. Some games like from Japan and stuff like that. But
you don't need to worry about any games from Japan because I'll just pick them up for you on my next trip.
Trust me when I tell you, now that I have that converter, we will be talking next time you go to Japan.
Oh, boy. Well, I can only fit so much in my suitcase, just so you know.
Well, luckily, they're small games.
Yeah, that's true. But knowing you'll want me to buy like 100 of them.
Well, now it's going to be Super Nintendo, Super Famicom, because
oh, man. It's very hard. I'm just going to go out there and say it's really, really hard Like the NES games are actually, or the Famicom games are actually easier to shop for than the Super Famicom games, because a lot of the Super Famicom cartridges, I noticed, don't have images on them. So it's really just, a lot of them are just Japanese lettering, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm supposed to find things.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's weird.
Yeah. So because that's why, like, when I come back from when I go to Japan and go to Super Potato, the best retro store of all time.
Next game on.
No, Super Potato still wins. The best that I can find in terms of like Super Nintendo games are the ones that are still in boxes, because at least I have the images on the boxes.
That's interesting.
But outside of that, it's like, and the staple games like the Marios and stuff, which do have images on them, a lot of them I can't tell what they are.
Wow. All right, I'll have to.
It's tough.
I'll do my research a little more in depth when you head out.
Well, that's exactly what I'm telling you. It's like, do your research, get images of the actual cartridge. Otherwise, I'm going to bring you back something completely different.
You know what? That may work. You never know. Because I got a couple of Japanese games. I have no idea what they are. So.
Yeah. So speaking of, for Takeshi's Challenge, did you beat up your wife yet in that game?
No, not yet, because I'm still trying to figure out how. All the video reviews I've seen online, the game was in English, but the one you got me is in Japanese, which would make sense. So unless there's a setting I have to work my way through and stumble upon, I really haven't had a chance to play it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know. There are some games where, you know what, they don't translate it. How dare they?
Yeah, they should. So,
well, spoken like a true red, white, and blue American.
Absolutely. What, are you kidding me? So looking forward, 2018 is a lot of stuff getting ready to come out. I'm looking forward to it. My biggest thing right now is, like I said, coming up in a few weeks, my Hyperkin Super Retron HD, their Super NES clone that plays both American and Japanese games, which you can pick up through. I actually bought mine through GameStop, which is probably going to be one of my final purchases from GameStop.
Oh, yes, there was a little GameStop snafu, wasn't there?
There was. So
please explain, because I actually found that absolutely hysterical, because it would only happen to you.
Well, no, here's the thing. It's happened. I've heard stories about this. In fact, I don't mind giving a little bit of a cross promotion, even though he has no idea who we are. But Pat, the NES punk, Pat Contry, he does a podcast, and he's on a few occasions talked about how cartridges, people have bought NES games, and it's not the real NES game. And what I mean by that is, through GameStop, and to be fair, I will give credit where credit is due, I was able to return the game for full price, so no problem.
Which is great.
Yep.
I mean, that's the important thing.
I figured now that I'm purchasing retro games, as much as, yes, I'll get games that I used to own, but now I'm going to try and make it a point to get games I've never played before, because now this is kind of my second opportunity. And a lot of games are now between the classics, the virtual console. I got a lot of them anyway. And I don't mind considering the classics and the virtual consoles, quote-unquote, official games. Much as we love playing off the cartridges, I have no problem with the virtual console and the classics. With that being said, figured I'd buy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Manhattan Project, for the NES. Never played the game before. Wanted to. Heard good things about it. So, all right, I'll order it. It was $24. I knew it was going to be a little pricier than some of the other games because it was buy two, get one free. So I picked up some of the games. So I get it. So I'm testing the games out, put them in my Hyperkin. Some work, some don't. That's why I got the rubbing alcohol and a thing of Q-tips, which is now like part of my entertainment center. Get some of that elbow grease going and cleaning up the games.
Okay.
So I put in Turtles 3, boot it up, and the kind of like the opening credits, if you will, came up. So I'm like, sweet. Really didn't read them. I just saw something came up. Cool. So I turn around and do something. I turn back around, and I have my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 3, The Manhattan Project, in the Hyperkin, and on my television screen is Tetris. And it's one of those things
because who wouldn't want Tetris?
Well, me, because I already have Tetris on the NES.
Oh, well, now you're just being picky.
And then, you know what? Now that I think about it, it looked slightly different. So it may have been someone actually just hacked it and didn't even bother getting the original Tetris ROM. I gotta check that out. So, it's one of those things where, you always hear the stories and you don't believe them until it happens to you. Well,
and then
it happened to me. And I believe it. And it's all, unfortunately, it's mostly with GameStop. Even though they test their games, yes, the game worked. It was just the wrong game.
Well, I mean, when you think about, people that are doing the QC for these things and, GameStop and whatnot, I'm sure what they're doing is they're putting the cartridge in, they're turning on the system, and then as soon as you see, that first image with all the legal information, they're just like, oh, done.
Please. I also picked up Jaws from them, and it took me 2 days of cleaning because that cartridge was so caked with, I don't even know, it's not rust, whatever ends up on the cartridges that you have to clean off. Yeah. I mean, it would not have worked on any system, Jaws. I just slowly, it was funny. I put Jaws in, nothing comes up. Clean it, I put it in, comes up glitchy. Clean it again, like it kept going. Finally, where I got the opening screen but no sound, and finally I got it to work.
Okay, well, at least it worked eventually.
Yeah. So,
I mean, these cartridges are like 30 years old.
No,
I mean,
I get that.
I
have no problem with that.
Take a while.
I have no problem with that, but I do have a problem with putting in Turtles 3 and it comes up Tetris.
Well, yeah, I can definitely understand that.
So I returned the game, and the kid behind the counter at GameStop goes, because I ordered online GameStop. Kid behind the counter goes, all right, so what's your reason for return? I'm like, wrong game. Like, oh, I'm sorry. Which game would you have preferred? I'm like, oh no, I ordered
the one I actually paid for,
the one that's on the cartridge, because I ordered Turtles, I got Tetris, and the guy's like, what are you talking about? And I tell him the story, and it's like, that is amazing.
See,
so that was,
and that is correct.
Yeah, so I'll buy the new stuff from GameStop, but old stuff I'm going to Game On here on Long Island because I picked up from him G.I. Joe on the NES.
Okay,
loved G.I. Joe. And it worked like a charm. So,
oh, awesome!
Yeah, so I will be doing my retro gaming there. But looking forward to 2018. I'm sure there's some stuff you're looking forward to. I got the Super Retron. Once that comes in, it's game over for me, figuratively.
Right.
And there's also, I don't know if it's available. Maybe in Japan. So when you go to Japan, you may have a mission. Big one too.
Don't give me a mission. That's too much pressure.
I was watching, I'll give a shout out to him, One Coin Only. I think Josh may have interviewed him actually on Victims and Villains.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think he did. One Coin Only, great guy to watch on Facebook. He pretty much plays arcade games only on one coin, so he'll see how far he can get. But he was playing this ROM there was a Legend of Zelda game on the Super Famicom, online service that we've talked about in the past.
Yes.
It's I don't think it's the official title, but it's unofficially called The Legend of Zelda: The Third Quest. It's basically Legend of Zelda from the Nintendo done in 16-bit graphic, and it's just a harder third quest compared to the second quest that you were able to play on the NES game. It looked awesome. It was fun to watch.
I want to play it. I'm already interested. You know me with Zelda. So
absolutely.
I'm already all in.
When I was listening to, and I don't know his actual name, I apologize, but when I was listening to One Coin Only talk about it, he was saying it was from that online thing, so it's more of a ROM. I don't know if anyone's ever put it on a cartridge. I don't know if Nintendo's ever put it on a cartridge.
Probably not.
It just looked really cool. And he also said it's short because it was online, I guess because of the size of the game to download it. Ooh, pardon me. To download it, it's kind of short. But that doesn't take away from the fun of it. I mean, for you, every Zelda game is short because you run right through them anyway.
Well, that's true. But yeah, I mean, any Zelda game I'm willing to give a try. And like there are I'm getting ready now to start attacking like the handheld ones that I never played.
Oh, cool! You'll love it.
Yes, I'm aware because now that I finished Super Mario Odyssey for the Switch, and when I say finished, I mean I got all 999 moons.
Good for you.
Yep, and I got the special ending, which by the way isn't worth collecting 999 moons for. But nevertheless, you know what I mean? Like I completed the game in its entirety, which is great. And unlike Breath of the Wild, which took me almost 6 months, Mario only took me 2.
There you go.
Which was great. So now I'm getting ready to switch over to Zeldas. But going back to the original Zelda and playing through playing through that with a third quest, I'm like, yeah, I mean, sign me up.
Absolutely. So
that'd be awesome.
I'm looking forward to that. That's really, I mean, anything you're really looking forward to in 2018?
No, there's no future for me in 2018, so I don't care.
Sweet.
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a few things that I'm looking forward to. So, one of them is, when they announced the Atari box last year, and I know we talked about this last week because it was, announced last year, I got really excited about the concept of Atari putting out a new system. So I want to know what it's all about. And they still haven't given enough information, and they were going to take pre-orders and then they didn't, which is a bad sign to me.
Yeah.
Very bad sign. So, but I'm still curious, about what it's going to be. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. And then probably one of the bigger ones that I'm looking forward to is a game that I've been waiting for since, about 10 years. Yeah, I'm like 2, 3 for 10. So about 10 years worth. There's a sequel being made to The Seventh Guest, which is one of my favorite computer games of all time.
Mm-hmm. Classic game.
Right. It had a sequel called The 11th Hour, and then the company went under, Trilobite. But then a fan decided to start making a sequel to The 11th Hour called The 13th Doll. And they were doing it on the side as a business. They were just doing it on the side for fun, and it was taking forever. But then eventually they decided, we're going to get more serious on it, and they're going to Kickstarter. They raised the money like 2 years ago. And now I believe they're releasing it this year. So I'm really looking forward to that. And like 13th Doll and the Seventh Guest series, it's like a point and click series.
Yeah.
So it's a point and click adventure. It's horror based, which is right down my alley. So I'm definitely looking forward to that coming out. Mm-hmm. I love those types of games, and the puzzles in those are really usually like top notch. Like the puzzles in those games are extremely difficult and frustrating, which is right up my alley. I love the harder it is to play, the more I want to beat it, and also the more frustrated I get. So that's always fun too.
Oh no.
Yeah. Well, you know me. I love beating my games, and when I get stuck somewhere, I can get frustrated. That never happened on games like WWF No Mercy, mm-hmm. which I played last week, I think, for my December game. Yes. Which, by the way, Josh and Brandon, thank you for joining us for our favorite Christmas video games.
Yes,
which went really well. But yeah, so I'm definitely looking forward to 13th Doll. I know the Commodore 64 is coming out with a mini, the ZX Spectrum Next, which is coming out. So like we have all these new mini consoles that I'm looking forward to. And by the way, for the ZX Spectrum Next, I believe they're actually making new games for it as well, like sequels to games that were already on it. I think that's what I read. I got to go back and confirm that. And then, so there's a lot of stuff coming down the pike. Cool piece of information that just came out last week also, which is for the Switch, is that a company called Flying Tiger Entertainment is going to be releasing 20 Data East titles on the Switch this year.
Really?
Yeah. So, they haven't announced any titles except for Gate of Doom. But there are going to be 20 titles added to the Switch, and I'm looking forward to that.
Oh,
definitely
man,
looking forward
cool.
to seeing what that's going to be.
Data East has a lot of cool games. I'm going to be honest with you, and that's all. If you have a Switch, definitely check it out, especially because of the portability of the Switch. But remember, Ann, if you can find it, and I own it. It's actually a good collection. The Data East collection on the Wii.
What games are on that Wii version, by the way, for the Data East title?
There's a few good ones actually. Bad Dudes versus Dragon Ninjas, as we know it as.
Ooh,
Bad Dudes.
I like that one.
Bump and Jump. I love Bump and Jump.
Oh, I used to play that all the time. I never got very far in it though.
No, neither have I. But it was just awesome to play on the NES.
Agreed.
Burger Time, Heavy Barrel. Nice. These are just some of them. Side Pocket, Street Hoop. So,
jeez.
Yeah. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's 15 games. That is 15 games. Let me go through them. Bad Dudes versus Dragon Ninja. Bump and Jump. Burger Time. Caveman Ninja. Express Raider. Heavy Barrel. Lock and Chase. Magical Drop 3.
Lock and Chase.
Yep. Magical Drop 3. Peter Pepper's Ice Cream Factory, Side Pocket, Sly Spy, Street Hoop, SRD, Super Real Darwin, Too Crude, and Wizard Fire.
Wow. Side Pocket, I think I still have on Genesis.
Side Pocket was an awesome pool game.
It was a great pool game.
Genesis or Super Nintendo? I remember it on Super Nintendo.
No, I believe I have it on Genesis.
Was it on Genesis? Okay.
Yeah, I think it was. No, it was one of those games that came out on both. Because Data East was a third party.
True.
So they were able to do that.
So, yeah, no, that game, actually, you know what? Talking about it now, I may break it out when we're done here.
I may go online and buy it because I believe GameStop is still doing a buy 2 used games, get 1 free.
Oh, that's how I ended up with Turtles 3.
There you go.
So you can order this game and end up getting Metal Slug Anthology.
Oh, that sounds good. Looking forward to that.
So, so I definitely check that out. But there's a lot of, there's a few compilation games. The Mega Man X Anniversary, like we mentioned.
Yeah.
Who knows what'll be on the Atari box.
Well, I was just going to say, though, sticking with Data East, there's a lot of Data East news coming out on the Retrobit site, if you've read that. Yes,
Retrobit's an awesome website. And first of all, not even with Data East, just with a bunch of stuff happening with Retrobit.
Yes, definitely. But Retrobit just announced, I believe last week as well, that they're partnering with Sega to produce accessories for Sega, for Sega consoles.
That works for you if you need anything for the Saturn.
Which by the way, I really need to play.
You still haven't?
No, I still haven't. I had last week off, right, from work, which was great, because I'm like, I'm going to do all these things. I'm going to play all these games. But then I had it in my head that I wanted to catalog my comic book collection because I have a very healthy comic book collection. And I'm like, all right, I go, that'll take a couple of days. 7 days later, I'm still working on the comic book collection.
Well, I remember that comic book collection. It was huge.
Well, no, I really didn't realize how many I had until I started cataloging it and how long it's been taking. I've cleared 4,000 friggin' issues. Some of them are dupes, which is great, but still, it's like this collection is gigantic, and I don't know why the hell I have so much stuff. But now I'm regretting the fact that I started this project because I really didn't get to game.
Well, you know what? That's what the new year is for.
That's true. 2018, new year, new rules, gaming all the time.
Absolutely. At least one more thing on my end that I'm looking forward to as well is, we always talk about like homebrews and stuff. I wouldn't consider these homebrews, but the new craze is now even like official games or homebrew, like original homebrew games. Being put on original cartridges, NES carts, yes. Genesis, Super Nintendo, and again through Retrobit, they're going to be putting out 2 types of these. No pun intended, as the first one, which will be on a Super Nintendo cartridge, and I love their special edition cartridges. They look like very, very like futuristic. R-Type returns, which is Super R-Type and R-Type 3, the third Lightning, that they're going to put on a multi-cart. From IRIM, the original company that put them out, so it's official. And there's no date yet for the launch for the pre-order, but it will be a 16-bit cartridge, and with other things like instruction manual, stickers, lithographs, stuff like that. And not only that, but there's this other game which I've never heard about. I got to look into it. It is a game also from IRIM called Holy Diver, which is a Castlevania-like game.
Yes, I've never heard of the game. I'm like, but of course, as soon as I saw that, I'm like, I need to buy it.
Honestly, and it's on a 8-bit cartridge, which comes with the OG dust covers and stickers, certificate of authenticity, stuff like that. So I am looking forward to these 2 things, and I don't know when they're coming out. When they do, we'll give you a heads up. But I really feel like 2018 is going to be huge as far as retro gaming. And I'll even though these are technically new, I'll still consider them retro gaming because they're coming out on old systems. And I just saw one too on Kickstarter, which I don't have in front of me. I apologize in advance. But it's a game someone's got on Kickstarter that they're looking to put out on a Genesis cartridge.
Ooh.
So
I want that.
This is, I think, the new craze is making these. I'll call them homebrews for lack of a better term, but making them. But
that's kind of the term for it right now. So let's just call it that.
I mean, I'll consider homebrew like something like taking Super Mario Brothers and hacking it. You know what I mean? To like make it extremely difficult.
I think to me, a homebrew is like an original game somebody makes for a retro system.
All right, fair enough.
Or for any system. Yeah.
But for a while, too, the homebrews were only available like on the computer. You know what I mean? Like you had to download the ROM. But now they're getting cartridge releases.
They're getting the cartridge love, which I think they should, because there are, especially because, we've talked about how retro gaming is becoming a thing now.
Here it is. I found Xenocrisis, it's called, on Kickstarter. 8 days to go as of New Year's Day.
Cool.
They've hit their goal.
Excellent.
It's a top-down arcade-style shooter for the Sega Genesis Mega Drive, taking inspiration from classics like Smash TV and Contra.
Well, with the way these things are going, I think it's only a matter of time before you're going to see the Retro Gamers homebrew game.
That would be awesome.
All right, it's the first Wacky Retro game of 2018, and I'm very excited about this one.
Wacky Retro. All right, what do you got?
I do love Wacky Retro games. So, this week's Wacky Retro game is actually a game that was never officially released, but was completed.
Really?
Yes. It was on the Super Nintendo. It came out in the 90s. It is politically connected to former President Bill Clinton.
Uh-oh.
And yes, and I don't know if you guys, if people out there remember, but Bill Clinton had a cat. And the cat's name was Socks. Well,
I remember that cat.
Yes. Real-Time Associates decided that they were going to develop a game based off of Socks the cat.
Why does this sound vaguely familiar?
So on the Super Nintendo, the game is called Socks the Cat Rocks the Hill. It was originally supposed to be released, I believe, in 1993. Now, it got all the way to the point where it was sent out for reviews. So there were cartridges made and sent out to companies for reviews, but then they decided not to release the game itself. Now, why is it a Wacky Retro game? Not despite the, besides the fact that it's the president's cat who got his own video game.
I guess better him than checkers.
Yeah, I guess so. But anyway, so the idea behind the game is it begins with Socks the cat observing foreign spies stealing a nuclear missile launch unit in the basement of a foreign embassy. So he embarks on a journey through Washington, D.C., to alert the Clinton family. So he goes through landmarks like the Pentagon, the Oval Office, and the White House, trying to find, Mama Hillary and Papa Bill to, warn them about, this whole nuclear missile launch. Now, throughout the game, Socks has to overcome foreign spies, politicians, the Secret Service, and the evil news media.
See? For the longest time.
So, and then the bosses in the game, though, at the end of there are 11 stages, and at the end of every stage, the bosses are actually caricatures of famous political figures. So, at the end of stages, Socks the cat is battling political figures like Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, and Ross Perot.
Oh my gosh! Let me guess. Is Monica Lewinsky the final boss?
Wait, I don't know, but in one situation in the game, Socks has to push Millie the dog, which was President George H.W. Bush's dog. Has to push Millie the dog out the front door to avoid Arab terrorist felines.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, and then also just as one final note for this game, Richard Nixon calls in bomb raids, and Ted Kennedy is actually seen driving a car on a bridge.
No.
Yes, they actually have that in the game. I have a feeling part of the reason why this game got canceled was pretty much for all of these things.
Oh, Teddy Kennedy on a bridge. Oh man.
So anyway, Socks the Cat Rocks the Hill is this week's Wacky Retro game, and I'm going on eBay to find one of those cartridges.
All right. So, we've, for, 73 episodes now, or 72 in the past, we've been talking a lot about, obviously, video games. That's our forte. But classic gaming doesn't necessarily have to be video gaming, and a passion of yours, huge passion of yours, is board games. Just good old classic board games.
Yeah, there's something about this. There's something about actually playing a board game that's really appealing to me, and I think part of it is the fact that, like, one, you're in, especially with the way people video game now, like you video game online, right? And you talk to people through headsets. I'm like, board games, you can't do that. You have to be in the physical presence of people, and in most cases, and obviously in most cases, they're going to be your friends. So it's just it's just a really cool thing to do when you're hanging out with your friends. So my friends and I started getting into board games probably about like maybe a year and a half, 2 years ago. And we, and again, like there are the classic board games out there like Monopoly and Clue and all that stuff. We've left those way in the dust because there are so many new board games out there and they're just so much fun. So, for example, we played a game last night called Hearing Things, just to do a little, I know it's not video game related, but it's a game called Hearing Things. And basically, you break off into teams of two. And then what happens is one person has to wear these noise-canceling headphones that plays sounds so that they can't hear you.
Really?
And then there are cards that you have to read that have sentences on them. Like, I went to the store and bought milk. And they have to read your lips and try and repeat the sentence that you just told them. It's hysterical because we're sitting there, we're sitting there trying to do it, and the person who's got the headphones on are getting them wrong, and they're saying the weirdest things, and you just start laughing. So like there were these, there were like fun party games like that, and then there were more complicated games like Settlers of Catan or Munchkin. Ticket to Ride, just to name a few games that are like, they're not these, classic games that everybody knows, but they're all these new games that are just really, really super popular. And then on top of that, they're doing theme games based on shows. Like I bought Buffy the Vampire Slayer board game, and it's like, and it's not like, and these aren't board games where it's like you take a piece on the board and you roll a die and you move them around. Like these are really like complicated strategy games.
Yeah, the board games have gotten very complicated, in my opinion, over the years. I mean, it just I'm not a big board gamer, but I've played board games. I enjoy them when we have played them. Like back in the day, we used to play the X-Men board game.
Yes,
we had.
I love that game.
What was the one with the? It was the horror one with the video cassette.
Oh, Nightmare.
Yes.
Nightmare with the gatekeeper.
Yes.
And he would always scream and interrupt us while we were playing.
Yep. So, they definitely had those. And there's been a fair share of board games turned into video games. I remember playing Monopoly with my friends. And then, it was time to go because we played for a while. And then I think I rented Monopoly on the NES. And you were able to customize the board. Like, actually to the point where, give everyone X amount of dollars, give people property, put the pieces on the board. So we literally picked up from the physical game and played it on the NES.
Yes, and actually, there's a Monopoly game that just came out for the Switch not too long ago.
Yes, which has a record-breaking like 8-minute load time.
Yeah, no, they fixed it in the first upgrade.
Oh,
so
okay.
Yeah, that was the first thing they fixed. But there's something about like board games that like they always seem to show up on video game systems. Like even to this day, I mean, I think for PS4, I just bought, and it's not board games based off a game show, but like Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy.
Okay, yep.
But like all of these, but in terms of video games becoming board games, normally what was happening in those aspects where we were getting themed Monopolies and themed Clues. Like there's a Legend of Zelda Monopoly, there's a Super Mario Monopoly, so on and so forth. Super Mario Chess.
Yep.
So we were getting classic games with a video game spin.
I gotta say, the first video game turned into a board game I remember, a buddy of mine had Tetris, the board game.
Oh, wow.
And I can't remember the rules. It was eons ago, but it played like Tetris. You had the different pieces. You had a board, like a grid layout. I'm assuming you probably roll the dice, and depending on the dice is how far you put the piece down or something like that. But that's the first board game I remember based on a video game.
And for me, the first board game I remember The first board game made out of a video game was actually one that I owned, was Pac-Man.
I forgot about that one. Yeah.
Do you remember the Pac-Man?
I do.
And the Pac-Man characters. So the pellets on the board were little marbles, little white marbles.
Yep.
And you can play with up to 4 players, and there were 4 Pac-Man, obviously. And the Pac-Man, like, he was like a little, I don't know how to explain it, but he looked like, a little Pez dispenser. But as you moved him along the board, he would eat the marbles that he would pass. I was like, and then at the same time, you had the ghosts on the board that were trying to get you. And when they got you, you lost all of your pellets.
Yeah. I remember there was a Super Mario Brothers board game. I just remember seeing it. It wasn't a Monopoly. It was like a standalone Super Mario Brothers. I just remember seeing it. I don't remember how to play it or anything like that.
I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, that one came out in like the late 80s.
Yeah, right? Yeah. But with that, there's a lot now. Like there's like a board. I would say there's a board game resurgence in the last few years.
No question.
Online, I was watching what was it called? Tabletop with my arch nemesis Will Wheaton. Host the show. He would get like 3 or 4.
Your arch nemesis? Who are you, Sheldon?
Oh, trust me. Oh, I think mine was before Sheldon. I think. Stupid Wizard World. So he gets like 3 or 4 celebrities, and they'll sit down and they'll actually play a board game. Just straight up play a board game.
Yep.
He'll give the instructions. They'll play the game. There were a few episodes. I mean, they're all cut for time, but there's a few episodes that they actually released like the entire gameplay, like including stops and having to talk to producers and stuff like that. It's really, really interesting. There was a couple of games on there. I remember that. I'm like, I really want to, pick up and play these games. But to in our wheelhouse here, there's a lot of new board games that are coming out based on old games.
Yes. And my friends and I watch Tabletop every time we buy a new game, if they have it, so that we can go through. It's easier to go through the rules with him. And by the way, I need to meet and befriend Will Wheaton just so I can be on Tabletop. Like, I just want to be on an episode of Tabletop. So, Will Wheaton, if you're listening, I'm available whenever you have your next Tabletop session. So, just saying.
And Will Wheaton, if you meet me, don't give me a hard time next time I ask for a drawing. Thank you.
I give you permission to give Larry the hardest time that you want. But yes, there are new games. I don't know if you remember. I just want to go back to old games really quickly. But I actually own the Legend of Zelda board game also. Do you remember that one?
No, I'm looking at it. You sent me a picture of it.
Yeah, so it was set up like a dungeon, and then in the dungeon there were cards, and then when you flipped over the cards, they had like enemies you had to battle and stuff like that. I used to love this board game. Absolutely love this board game.
I don't know. Yeah, that's a new one.
And that's cool. Yes, and now that I've remembered it, I will be going on eBay later. So this is how I lose all my money. We talk about stuff and then I go buy it right after we record. Yeah. But yeah, so the Legend of Zelda board game is awesome. But yeah, like nowadays, like the board game craze is huge, and now we're getting board games based off of actual video games. So, for example, Resident Evil has a deck building game. So it's it's one of those strategy games where you build up your hand and then you fight zombies. And
so a deck building game, is that maybe akin to something like Magic the Gathering or something like that? Okay.
Yeah, deck building games are kind of like they're kind of like Magic the Gathering. So you're building out like the strongest possible hand, and then you're battling. So Resident Evil has one like that. I think Street Fighter. Yep. There's a Street Fighter deck building game, I believe. And it's the same thing. It's just like, it's all about battling. There's another game. It's not based exactly off of a video game, but it's based off of 8-bit dungeon crawler games in general.
Okay.
And it's called Boss Monster. And basically what you're doing is you are the boss monster of a level. And what you're doing is you're building the level to entice and, basically kill the hero as he's coming through the level. So it's on my list of games to buy. And I've had it in my hand like 10 times at Barnes & Noble, and I've yet to pick it up because I'm like, I keep trying to think like, will any of my friends be interested in playing this game? Because I'm the only one that I think really loves video games. But I'm going to pick it up anyway because we play all games anyway. But Boss Monster is directly connected to 8-bit video gaming. So every card that's in the game, it's all like 8-bit art.
That's cool. That's
which
real
is
cool.
Really cool. Yeah, and it looks really, really cool. So I'm going to Barnes & Noble.
There's Doom. Doom they worked into a game, and that's like, when you think about it, like a first-person shooter. How do you turn that into a board game? But it's kind of like an overhead co-op board game. It looks like you put like the dungeons together like a puzzle, which guess makes the game different every time you play it. But it also has D&D elements to it. Like there's basically someone who akin to a dungeon master. Controlling the monsters and stuff, so I guess you need someone to battle in Doom. But pretty interesting here, since if there's any Doom fans out there that are also board game fans, as much as Doom is discontinued, they basically changed it into this other board game called Descent: Journeys into the Dark. So if you find that game, that's essentially Doom redone.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I don't know. Larry, I don't know if you've ever played the Sid Meier's Civilization games.
I never
video games.
Nah, I got to admit, growing up when the game came out, it seemed a little too in depth for me, so I kind of stayed away. Great game, don't get me wrong. The series is fantastic, yes. But I'm looking at the board game right now, and it's freaking me out.
Yeah, because and the Civilization board game is a perfect example of how complicated board games are now, because board games like this, they come with a lot of pieces. There are a lot of rules, and you need like something like Tabletop, like Will Wheaton's Tabletop, to kind of explain it, just to make it a little bit easier. Because, like, let me tell you, some of these instruction booklets are ridiculously daunting. But the Civilization game is basically like the video game, except you're playing with your friends. So it's a turn-based strategy game, and it's basically exactly like the video game itself. So you're just trying to establish world domination over the course of thousands of years. You're building your civilization up from the Stone Age on. But again, it's a massively complicated game. And if you look at images of it, you'll see why. There's just so many pieces.
Yeah, it's freaking me out. Quick side note: what was that game that you bought when we were hanging out? And it took literally.
Mansions of Madness. So Mansions of Madness is like, that's a game like you literally need to give your entire evening over towards. Like, there are games that are that complicated. So it took 2 hours to set up, and then by the time I was done setting it up, we didn't want to play, and I put it away. But then what's funny is in LA with my friends, I did the same thing. We set it up. Still took me 2 hours to set the whole thing up, and then we played through it, but we weren't that thrilled about it because it took so long to set up. I mean, there is a limit to setting it up. There's another board game, not based off a video game, but I'll just, since we segued or sidetracked, called Fury of Dracula that I bought. Doesn't take as long to set up, but the gameplay time on it is 3 to 4 hours long.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's literally your entire evening. And to be honest with you, we played it. It was fun. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, it was fun.
And I got to be Dracula, so that was super cool.
It's like being Jason.
Yeah, exactly. Which I played, by the way, last night during New Year's Eve. Friday 13th. It was awesome. So anyway, but getting back to video games that become board games, one of the ones that I saw at Barnes & Noble recently was Centipede, which is new.
I saw that it kind of came across. I forgot where I saw it, but I saw that somewhere as well.
Yeah, so I'll be picking that one up too and testing that one out. But I'd like the idea of like a simple game like Centipede being a board game just sounds really cool. So.
Yeah, right.
But there's one game that I bought about, I want to say it was almost a year ago, or it was a year ago, based off of a very old text-based game called Oregon Trail. Oh, and anybody who retro games should know Oregon Trail because it was a ridiculously hard. It was a ridiculously hard game where it's based off of real historical events. You're trying to get your it takes place in the 19th century. You're trying to get your covered wagon party from, I forget the starting location, but you're trying to get to Oregon. And you're trying to avoid your wagon breaking down. You're trying to avoid
dysentery.
Yeah, well, a lot. Yeah, you're trying to avoid different diseases and the bitter cold and stuff like that. And in most cases, you always wind up dying of dysentery. Like on the text-based game, It doesn't matter what you did. Odds are you're dying of dysentery.
I never figured at such a young age so many people would learn what dysentery is.
Exactly. So the board game is a card-based game, and what you do is it's turn-based, so you play with friends. And then you get cards, and the cards on them have paths. And what you need to do is you need to connect 5 cards to complete one path. And you have to complete 10 sets of paths to get to Oregon.
Okay.
But then as you're putting those cards down, it tells you to like draw, I forget what they call them, an action card or something like that. You have to draw a card from the deck. And the cards from the deck are complications. So in other words, it's like, broken wagon wheel. And then you need to use item cards in order to fix the wagon wheel within a set amount of turns, or else the whole party dies. So in other words, it's like, it's like the wagon wheel is broken. It's like, use tools before your next, before the next round, or everybody dies. Or, the bitter, or there's a food shortage. Make sure you have use a food card, or you're all going to starve to death. It's like complications like that. But then also mixed into these random cards are, you got a snake bite, you're dead, and you're dead. Like it's
just like that.
Yes, exactly. Or you get you have died of dysentery card, and when you get that card, that's it. You're dead, and you're out of the party, and then the rest of the players continue on to Oregon, and the job is at least one player has to survive to Oregon.
Okay.
So it's a cooperative game where you're all trying to win, but what's happening is people in your party are dying along the way.
Oh my gosh.
And it's really fun. And what's funny too is they also give you a dry erase card.
Really?
So you put, it's because it's up to 6 players, and you put your names on it with a dry erase marker. And then as you die, on the flip side, they have tombstones. And then you fill out the tombstones when each player dies. So it's like, Anthony died of dysentery, or
gosh,
or Larry died of a snake bite, and you just fill those out to see what either you're going to fill up all the tombstones first, or you're going to make it to Oregon first. It's actually a really fun game, and it doesn't take that long to play. It's like 10 to 20 minutes tops.
That's wild.
It's super fun. And then they just came out with an expansion pack for it.
Yeah.
That we also picked up, but we've only played it once, so I'm not comfortable describing it completely.
Fair enough.
But it just adds to the fun of the game. So it's interesting considering the fact that the board game craze is definitely really, really steamrolling right now.
Mm-hmm.
And for all the new games that are coming out, like there's they have a Halo game, they have a World of Warcraft board game, and all of those, like these retro ones, I think are, like, at least to me, more interesting.
Oh, absolutely.
But I'm biased. All right, Larry. So for this week, I thought we can do a cool little retro record.
Okay.
And considering the latest debacle in your acquisition of video games, and you know how you got your Turtles game and it was a Tetris game?
Yeah.
I thought, in honor of that, and to ring in the new year, I'm going to do a retro record on the highest possible score in Tetris and how quickly it was completed. So,
okay.
The highest possible score you can get in Tetris is 999,999 points, because it's got 6 digits, right?
Okay.
And the person who achieved the highest possible score with the least number of lines was Matthew Bucco, who achieved 999,999 points in Tetris by only using 207 lines. Now,
really?
Yes. Now, if you remember in Tetris, you moved up a level every time you completed 10 lines,
mm-hmm.
Or at least roughly 10 lines. So just imagine how fast the game had to be going. When you get to 207 lines, I mean, that means you're over level 20.
Yeah.
So that is, so Matthew Bucco completed 999,999 points with only 207 lines, and that is this week's retro record. All right, Larry. So I don't know if you saw, but last week I was playing WWF No Mercy.
Yes.
I was live streaming it.
Another good live stream.
It was a great live stream because I picked my favorite mode of the game, which of course was Royal Rumble. It's funny. I was worried about being rusty because I haven't played No Mercy in a long time. And it is arguably one of the best wrestling video games ever made.
Oh, yeah.
But, it didn't take very long for me to, get that old feeling back when I was playing it. And I managed, to go coast to coast in the Royal Rumble with the number one entrant who I chose as Jeff Hardy.
You did.
Now, yes, I know. And I only chose him because I was like, I knew I would last a while and then probably get eliminated. And I liked Jeff Hardy's moveset. I wasn't planning on going coast to coast with him, but you know what? I still got it.
You sure did. I forgot how long that mode is. You played like over a half hour.
Yeah, well, you got to remember. I mean, I chose 32 people instead of 40 because you can do up to 40, but they don't give you an option for 30, which is a standard Royal Rumble.
Yeah.
So I went with 32, but yeah, I mean, it takes work to eliminate guys from that thing.
No, it sure does. It's not as easy as one would remember, but you would do it, and a lot of people were tuning in. It's funny, when you said coast to coast, like 4 of us kind of at the same time said the same thing, going coast to coast. Yeah, a lot of big wrestling fans were watching it, so that was a good pull.
Yeah, there was actually one person who was watching who actually posted. He's like, wow, he's like your Rumble run was pretty much the same length of time as the Rumble from 95 when it was 1 minute entries.
I think that was me.
No, it was somebody else.
Oh, was it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, somebody else had written that. But it actually made me think, and I know we've talked about wrestling games in the past on here, but it just made me think of how much we used to love just sitting down and playing our good old wrestling games, whether it was on the Super Nintendo or more importantly the N64. And there were a bunch of us doing it. It wasn't just me and you. It was you, me, Anthony, Brian.
Yeah.
My brother-in-law Brian sometimes. There was a whole group of us, Anthony's brother Michael. We always used to love playing the game. I also remember very frustrating moments when playing the game because you guys all love to double and triple team me.
Well, you were very good at the game, so we needed to eke out our competition.
Yes, and I just remember always having I was always having a good time. And you know what? In a lot of cases, you guys would team up against me, and I would still win, which I always found awesome. Selfishly. But I don't know if are there any memories that you have from just good old fashioned retro wrestling games that you remember most fondly?
I remember how happy I was when I saw WWE Royal Rumble. I can't say
you have to say the app. It's WWF in the 90s.
That freaking panda. Royal Rumble on Super Nintendo. I never owned the Genesis versions. I only had the Super Nintendo versions. But
how can you not own the Genesis version? Had Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
I didn't have Genesis at the time.
Oh, that's right. You were a purist.
I was. So I remember how awesome Super WrestleMania looked, and yes. I do remember once. I only did this once, and I know it's not a dream. It's not something I'm making up. I know it happened where. You were the Undertaker. I was the Undertaker, and I was just smashing the buttons. I did something where he actually went down and choked his opponent on the ground.
Oh.
I never saw it in the book. I was never able to find it anywhere online. I had to do it again. But I know for a fact I was choking someone as the Undertaker. That I will remember for the day I die. And another wrestling moment, not really playing the game, but a great wrestling moment is my mother getting an employee of Toys R Us fired over WrestleMania, the very first game on the NES.
Oh, yes. I do remember that story.
Classic story. And look in there.
What a shame.
Kid brings it to someone else. I start crying because that's what I do. And a couple days later, I come home. It's sitting there on the TV. And years later, I found out she got that kid fired.
And you know what? And thanks to your mom, that kid probably became a drug addict and never recovered.
Hey, not my problem. So that's some of my big memories. Of course, the most epic memory is WWE Raw on the Super Nintendo, and of course, getting jumped on the way home from your house.
Yes, and we've shared that story a couple
Absolutely.
of times. And you know what? I mean, and it's your own fault that we're still friends. Just so you know.
I sure learned my lesson.
Yep. I mean, and then I have to say, like, one of the best memories I have is walking. And this was, this is when I was a kid. It was walking down to Avenue U, going to, I believe it was. I don't remember what store it was. I felt like it was a very weird store. Like it was a dry cleaners or a sewing shop or something like that. It was a very weird store.
Avenue U, where?
Avenue U, and I think it was right off between Herring Street and Brown Street.
Okay.
But it was on Avenue U. It was 3 blocks away from where I lived. But they had a WrestleFest arcade machine there. And that's where I would go to play WrestleFest. And WrestleFest to this day is still hands down one of my favorite wrestling games of all time. And the fact that they've never, ever, ever released it on anything just makes me feel sad. It's just super because the game was the Royal Rumble in that. I'm sorry. I still can't think of a better Royal Rumble than playing the WrestleFest one.
That one was
I really
awesome.
can't.
It
was the first one to ever have, I believe it was the first one to have 6 players in it because it came out in like 91 or 92, something like that. It had the best roster for a game back then.
It did.
It really did. Hogan, Ultimate Warrior, Earthquake, Mr. Perfect, Jake the Snake. I mean, just really, really solid players. The Legion of Doom were in it.
Yeah.
It was just Demolition. You were able to play. But just the overall like game itself was just awesome. And then even the tag team mode, you went through the tag team kind of like tournament kind of thing. That was awesome too. So I just remember pumping so many quarters into that WrestleFest machine in the very strange store on Avenue U. That should not have an arcade. The mystery store that should not have an arcade game.
That also sold a Mogwai out of the back.
Oh man, did he? I missed out.
Good stuff. The memories. It's the moments of our lives.
Well, yeah. I mean, I just remember playing all those games with you guys and, having fun with them. And, to this day now, thanks to the beauty of the internet, we can continue to play, especially the WWE games now, like, 2K17 and 2K18. Not only is it enjoyable for me to keep playing those games, it's extra enjoyable for me because I've actually had a part in making those games. In a way, because I've written for the last 2 WWE games.
Yes, that is true.
So
you did a wonderful job.
Yes, well, granted, it's the most critically panned portion of the video game, which I personally, I will not take credit for that.
You weren't on the lead on that one.
No, that's not on me. Please, I really hope it's not on me. But really, I mean, it's just a blast to still play those and. Even today, but even with all the new graphics and everything, there are so many retro wrestling games we've never played that we need to get our hands on.
And that's what I was talking about earlier. That's what I'm going to be doing now with the clones that I got. And now I'm debating of getting a Genesis 3 from Game On out here in Miller. I may. That's kind of my goal is to get games I loved, but get games I've never played.
Yeah. So for example, like all the New Japan Pro Wrestling games that are from Japan on the Super Famicom, I have like 4 or 5 of them. I can't wait to I got to pop those in and play. Fire Pro Wrestling, which has there are 27. Yes. There are 27 titles to that series.
Yep.
And there's one on PlayStation 2 that came out in the States that we need to pick up.
I feel like I may have that one.
Oh, maybe you do. I may have it at this point. I don't know. I bought so many damn games. Power Move Pro Wrestling on PlayStation. I loved that game. It was a generic. It was the first wrestling game to come out on PlayStation. It was a generic. It was not tied to an organization, but it was just a great wrestling. It was a great wrestling game.
Yep. I forgot about that one. Yeah.
Yep. But yeah, so many wrestling games, so many memories. Of course, our buddy Anthony, who guested on the show not too long ago. I'm sure his memories aren't as positive because he was always on the receiving end of my beatings in those games. But,
you mean the host of the Yin and the Yang podcast?
No, not him too, but no, the other Anthony.
Oh, that Anthony. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. No, he. Yeah,
the one who would always orchestrate the triple teaming.
Yep. Yeah, he does that. Yeah.
and I said this too when he posted it on Facebook. But in hindsight, I totally deserved it. I understand. And 20 years later, I forgive you.
I'm glad time has allowed that to happen.
Yeah. Well, it needed to hit like that 2-decade mark, and I think we're just about there.
Fair enough. Good stuff. All right. Well, that's what this whole podcast is all about. You know what I mean?
Yes, definitely. It really is about memory and making new ones.
Yes. And that's what we're going to be doing. And 2018 is going to be big for us, big here at the More of the Same Network as well for all the podcasts, us, the Better Half, the Yin and the Yang podcast. And I want to drop some information here right now. Check out the link in the podcast description. But we are now hawking merchandise, people. That's right. You can wear us. You can drink out of us. You can put us on your phones.
All of that sounds dirty.
Yeah, you can work out in us, hopefully, if we get the graphics. But
that's disgusting.
Go to pro.teechip.com/theretrogamers. Pro.teechip, teechip.com/theretrogamers. T-shirts, hats, mugs, cell phone cases. I want to get leggings on there. We will soon. Posters. And remember, yeah, they do. They have. We can put them on leggings. I just need a white graphic of just the words, the Retro Gamers.
All right, coming soon.
And posters. If you see us out in the wild and you have one of our posters, let us know. Make sure you have a Sharpie. We will sign it for you. Because I want that to happen desperately.
Yeah, yep, and then you can watch the value of it instantly go down.
Oh, forget about it. So, we love bringing this to you each and every Tuesday. Obviously, we do it for free. We do not expect you to, pay for the podcast itself. But if you want to help support the podcast, trust us, we are not quitting our jobs based on this merchandise. But it will certainly help with storage fees and everything along those lines. It'll help offset a lot of that. So definitely check out the website.
Otherwise, we're just going to go under, and then it's just poor Larry and I playing video games on our own.
That's it. All this stuff now I have to use. So check it out. Again, check out all the podcasts. Check out our live streams. January. I don't know what we're doing in January, but we'll be live streaming somehow. And look out for more live streamings. We're going to get that going. Ant, you got anything big just in general for 2018?
Well, no, I have plans in 2018. I definitely do, and nothing I'm going to share at the moment because I will share them as I make them happen. However, this month there is the SoCal Retro Gaming Expo on January 20th and 21st, if I'm not mistaken, or 19th and 20th, whatever that Saturday and Sunday is. Mm-hmm. I will be there. I will attempt to live stream, but odds are I suck at it, so I probably won't. But I'm going to take some video while I'm there. Okay. Maybe I'll do some reporting, and then we'll have some reviews. So that's coming up on the retro gaming side. SoCal Retro Gaming Expo. If you're in the SoCal area, swing on down, check out some good old-fashioned retro gaming.
Cool. And I got nothing really happening just yet as far as retro gaming, as far as any expos. So I'm kind of laying low for a little bit. But as soon as something comes up, you'll certainly hear about it. But be on the lookout. 2018 is going to be good. And again, Happy New Year to you. Have a wonderful week.
Happy New Year to you as well, sir. And to everybody listening, have a wonderful and prosperous 2018.